I just rewatched season 1 of Visions. How do all these shorts rank amongst each other? Bright Suns, everybody, Batuuboii here, and welcome to another review video. Visions, as you know, has already been out for quite some time now, but I found myself wanting to rewatch it after they announced Visions Season 3. So I took some time to watch both of them, and I figured I wanted to rank all of the shorts and see how they all compare against each other, seeing as we're going to be seeing 2 of these shorts return in Season 3, and one of them getting their own series. I wanted to give my opinions and see what y'all thought of these episodes down in the comments. Now, I will preface this with saying that I did watch all of these shorts dubbed, so they were all in spoken English. So as you know, that could dip some of the quality just because, translation, inflections sometimes don't really translate that well. But I always just feel watching the dub, especially with something like Star Wars, it just makes more sense to me in terms of translation. So y'all can do that argument out in the comments. So let's get to it. And with Season 1, we do see that all of these shorts are animated from Japanese animation houses, so these are all from Japan. With Season 2, they move on to pretty much worldwide. They're from all over the place, but from Season 1, they are all Japanese. And I'll be talking about and giving the names of each studio house as I go through these episodes. So starting off with number 9, we have Episode 2 entitled Tatooine Rhapsody from Studio Colorido. And the story here essentially being that there's a band, they're playing on Tatooine, and they're just trying to play their first gig and become rock stars, essentially. This episode being very music heavy. We do also get a nice little cameo from a super cute animated Boba Fett, but it's coming here at number 9 because as much as it's an episode very heavy on music, I did not really like the music that we were given, especially the lead singer. I couldn't get into his voice at all. Every time he just started singing, and I get it, punk music and all of that, they're not obviously going for super contemporary or perfect pitch or perfect tone or timbre, but it still has to kind of feel good to listen to. And this did not, and we don't really get a whole lot of action here. We do get a nod to Order 66 as the lead singer was a former Jedi that escaped Order 66, but I just could not get into the feeling of this at all. So that's where we will land Tatooine Rhapsody at number 9. Going into number 8, we have Episode 7 entitled The Elder by studio called Trigger. This one follows a Jedi and his Padawan. They're exploring the Outer Rim when they sense a disturbance in the Force and land on this nearby planet thinking that there's a Sith there. Well, the premise, great. The animation, pretty good. The dialogue was unbearable. Some of these, and I don't know if it's you could throw it down in the comments and say that it's the dub's fault. And true, that could attribute to the delivery of some of these lines that they're just they're phoning it in this episode. But they have to translate it from a script, and this script, it just repeats itself so many times, where there's one line in particular where they're talking about the so-called elder that could be the Sith Lord on this planet, and they say, an elderly from an unknown tribe visited, and the Padawan responds, wow, a visitor who is elderly and he's from an unknown tribe? What are we doing, guys? And the only reason that I do put this above Tatooine Rhapsody is solely for the purpose that there is a lightsaber fight, which is still pretty good. The elder himself looks terrifying, contrary to what the thumbnail for the episode shows. The Elder is honestly a really cool character. I love the way his eyes are designed, and his katana dual lightsabers look really cool. The ensuing fight that we get up him versus the Jedi Master is honestly really great. We do get a really nice Sith lightning shot as well, but that's pretty much all it's got going for them. Once the fight is over and they just start talking again, it took everything I had not to just skip to the next episode. But with that, that's where we'll land The Elder at number 8. At number 7, we have The Village Bride from Kinema Citrus. And this one, I put it lower. This is where in number 9 and 8, I knew that's where I was going to be sitting at with those 2 episodes. Going from like 7 to 2 was very difficult for me because the rest of these episodes are honestly just really good. Had to think about it, and for me, the one that I just felt the least connected to out of the other 7 episodes was The Village Bride. The one thing that I will give The Village Bride is the music is absolutely stunning. It felt very much like kind of Kingdom Hearts intro music, which I'm a sucker for. And then just the strings and the orchestration through this episode is just beautiful. The animation is also very vibrant. Like, shout out Kinema Citrus for all of these wonderful balance of colors. I just couldn't really get really connected to the characters. The one that I could was our masked Jedi, that she's seen kind of like thinking about her past throughout the episode, the story being that they come onto this planet, a Jedi and I guess her master. It's just some dude with like a giant mask, and they're following around this bride and groom who are spending their last day together before she essentially gets taken by some raiders as a kind of like offering. They were wanting to take her elderly father, but she volunteered herself as tribute to be taken by these raiders so she could save her village. A fight ensues between the raiders, the village, and this Jedi who pulls out a yellow lightsaber and is incredibly quick on her feet and makes very quick work of these raiders. And just the combat, the animation, the music, all really great. The one thing that I just did not stick with me is that it ends on still images. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves. There could be attributes as to why they chose to end it that way, but I mean, it's an animated show. Let's get something animated in there. So that's why I will land Village Bride at number 7. With number 6, we see Akakiri from Science Saru. And this one, honestly, it felt almost like really quick. Like the pacing of it was like, it was just go, 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 go. Like they didn't really stop for a lot of time to kind of explain the story. Our protagonist, Tsubaki, who right off the bat we know is a Jedi, he pulls out his lightsaber and starts fighting these droids or these enemies. And we see him start to get headaches as we see that he's like seeing visions, but they're not really clear as to what they are. Like they get clearer throughout the episode. We see him take on a mission to escort Misa, who is this member of royalty, as they bring her back to her castle where another member of her royal family has become a Sith Lord, and they're gonna try and bring her back to reality and to the light side. We start to see flashbacks from the past as they grew up together. He was always a Jedi protector of their family. We see him fighting this Sith Lord as she sends a whole bunch of guards at him to fight, and he essentially ends up killing Misa, which is the vision that he has been seeing all along. As he mentions, he sees someone dying over and over again, and it ends up being this princess that he slays. The Sith Lord brings up a kind of deal that I can save the one you love if you've turned to the dark side, which we've seen this story before. But this time it actually works, as they do bring Misa back to life at the cost of this Jedi, Tsubaki, turning to the dark side and over to his new master. It's a really cool story. When I saw the thumbnail, I thought this was going to be a sort of 2.5D animation, but it still sticks to 2D animation, which I always prefer. And the thing I also really liked is the effects on the lightsabers that we don't see at any other point throughout the season, where as the saber moves, we see the frames of where the saber was before, and it's honestly a very unique and interesting look into how a lightsaber moves. The story itself, it's very quick pace, so I didn't honestly get to connect with the characters as much as I would have liked to. I still really felt really bad for Tsubaki after he had to turn to the dark side to save Misa, so that is why I'll feel comfortable placing it at the number 6 spot here. So going into number 5, we see T0B1, also by Science Saru, so back to back by Science Saru. But this one I felt a little more connected to for different reasons. Opening of this episode, it's very kid friendly. It's screaming Mushi Productions, like Astro Boy. It's just that kind of animation. I mean, even the Professor Mitaka is very resembling of Astro Boy's creator, and it feels very uppy and go lucky throughout the episode. Like T0B1 just wants to be a Jedi. He keeps thinking that he's always destined to be a Jedi, even though he's a droid. Professor Mitaka has built all of these droids. He's kind of alone on this planet, and his sole purpose is to bring life back to this planet. So greenery, even clouds he's trying to bring back. Honestly, very simple and very just like, cute premise. But as we get through the episode, it gets very dark very quickly. As T0B1 is entrusted by Professor Mitaka to go and find a kyber crystal on this planet because he wants to feed into this notion that he wants to be a Jedi. So T0B1 goes throughout the entire planet searching for this kyber crystal. In the episode, we mentioned that he's not allowed in the basement. Lo and behold, he goes into the basement to try and find this kyber crystal and actually finds a ship where he uses the communications on there to send a message out to all Jedi, which is then intercepted by an Inquisitor. Stuff starts hitting the fan from there. We find out that Professor Mitaka was also a Jedi on the run, hides T0B1, using the Force, moving around all these objects to make sure that he's hidden, and he actually entrusts him with his old lightsaber without a kyber crystal. We don't see anything after this, but after the fight ensues, T0 comes out and his home is completely destroyed. His master is literally under a giant pile of rocks. He begins to realize that he is entrusted with the Force and that he has this special connection to it, revealing a kyber crystal that's been inside of his chest this entire time, hence completing his lightsaber before the Inquisitor comes down again to finish what he started. A very cool fight ensues, and we start to sort of realize that in a little moment of defeat, he sees a vision of his professor, which he then calls him his Padawan and calls him Toby, which is super cool, as it's like T0B1 put together looks like Toby. And we kind of get this notion that Toby used to be Mitaka's Padawan, but was a human. So I'm thinking that he probably put his essence to keep him alive into the body of this droid, and it's just really dark stuff. It's a dead child's soul in the body of a robot wanting to become a Jedi because that's what he was always destined and always thought he was going to be. So it's a very dark and interesting premise for what feels like a children's show. And the fight that ensues, it's just absolutely amazing. After he defeats the Inquisitor, he then gets on a ship, and his mission now is to bring life and, bring balance to the Force throughout the universe. And it's honestly really cool. I didn't have a lot of high hopes for this episode, but afterwards I was just left with my jaw on the floor. So with that, that's where I'll feel comfortable putting in the middle of the pack here at number 5. With number 4, we see The Twins, also by Trigger, who did The Elder. I had high hopes going into The Elder after watching this one because The Twins is absolutely amazing. I mean, we're starting off with this incredible shot of a Star Destroyer coming into space, and you see all of these stars except this black shape of a Star Destroyer, kind of just blacking everything out as it comes into the sunlight, and it's just a really cool introduction. But then you see that there's 2 Star Destroyers connected by this giant engine or beam or whatever, kind of the middle of a Death Star, and it's just absolutely crazy. The story being that there's these 2 twins created by the dark side who each have their own kind of armor. We start to see that they're trying to power up this giant laser, and the only way they can do that is if they use their powered suits powered by kyber crystals, put their forces together to actually make this thing shoot. who's the girl twin, is very, very dedicated to the dark side, while Kare, as we see, is kind of conflicted. He doesn't really know what he wants to do, so much so that he steals the kyber crystal that is needed to power this laser, and that's where this conflict ensues. There's a chase that goes about. It just leads us into some of the craziest sequences in any Star Wars I've ever seen. We're seeing lightsabers like bend and kind of like twist around other lightsabers as these two twins duke it out. There's certain moments in this episode where you just kind of have to let logic just to the wayside. They're fighting in space without suits, but you just kind of have to, turn your brain off and just watch what's happening as he uses his lightsaber and an X-Wing to basically thrust him through an Imperial Star Destroyer and cut it in half, then proceed to go into hyperspace through this X-Wing and basically finish off the job just to cut a kyber crystal. And it kind of looks like The Last Jedi when they go into hyperspace into another ship and it just like explodes into this like giant spread. It's honestly really, really cool. And we also see some really cool Sith lightning effects from and she's obviously very just, twisted and contorted by the dark side. And Kare is, now just full force, like, I'm part of the rebellion now. But even after all of that, at the end of the episode, he is still entrusted to want to go and save his sister. And so honestly, really, really cool effects here. It's some of the best animation that we see in the show, but there is some more animation to come that I preferred. So that's where I feel comfortable leaving it at the number 4 spot. So these next 3 were really, really tough to choose. And it just came down to which stories did I care about the most and which ones did I feel like super connected to. And this one was tough because number 3, we have The Ninth Jedi from Production IG. Obviously, The Ninth Jedi, it got announced at Star Wars Celebration Japan that this is getting its own series, and you could definitely tell from the way this episode ends that it was necessary, and I'm glad that we're getting it. And the one thing that did keep me from giving it to number 2 is it starts with an exposition dump, and in a narration, I'm just like, let's just get to what's going on here, and we'll figure out the story as we go. Juro, who is this kind of random proprietor, has sent a message out to all Jedis throughout the galaxy to come and meet as he is building lightsabers for them, which have been lost for centuries now. They all gather together. They're still trying to figure out if Juro can be trusted. Like, is he, just trying to collect all of these Jedi together so they can kill them, or is he actually going to be providing them with lightsabers? The second part of this story is we see Kara and her father, who is a sabersmith, building them for Juro, which are honestly really cool, and they bring a really interesting aspect as Kara, who obviously is not a Jedi, picks up one of the lightsabers and it's clear. It's told here that the color is based off of the wielder themselves and the length is based off of what the user actually needs, which is a really cool aspect to introduce as it makes these lightsabers more personable, and you can't obviously just like pick up a lightsaber and have it be the exact same thing. So it's really nice that they give this kind of personality to these lightsabers. These droids come in and essentially try and kill Kara's father. She's entrusted with bringing the lightsabers back up to the temple in the sky to bring them to these Jedi. Kara is shown to be actually very well versed with a lightsaber, and she's kind of strong with the Force as well. We don't really see her use the Force, but I mean, with the reflexes that she has, you can definitely tell. She's able to bring up the lightsabers up to the 7 Jedi as they each go and pick up their lightsabers, and it results in this really cool shot where they all turn on their lightsabers and they all turn red. They just are all now revealed as Sith. There's this droid that's been kind of hanging around with the 7 Jedi, one of them being this dude literally just named Ethan. He's just very bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, super innocent. He said he's born into a world where sabers already didn't exist, and he wasn't really, trained within the Jedi, but he feels a strong connection with the Force, so he thinks that he should be a part of this council as well. It's revealed that inside of this droid was Juro the entire time. The Sith start trying to kill Juro, and Juro is making just quick work of these Sith. This fight ensues. Kara is and, putting up a pretty good fight against the other Sith. The fight ends with Ethan is fighting this other Jedi named Homan, who's this kind of like giant, like rabbit looking creature. When we initially saw him, his lightsaber turned red, but when he's fighting Ethan, his lightsaber turns purple. This kind of insinuates that he was a spy for Juro, but he also can succumb to the dark side. So that was honestly really interesting. He was also fighting Kara earlier, and that's when we see her lightsaber turn from clear to green, showing her connection to the Jedi and the light side. Juro then entrusts Kara as the titular 9th Jedi, as they now are gonna go and try and rescue her father. And that's where the episode ends, and it was honestly a really big cliffhanger. One of the bigger ones that we did get throughout the series, so I'm glad that we're gonna be getting an actual dedicated show to the 9th Jedi. Really great work from Production IG, and that's where I'll feel comfortable leaving it at the 3 spot. Going into number 2, we have episode 8, so almost as to the end of the series, with Lop and Ocho from Geno Studio. This one I went into and I was just instantly just moved as we see Lop, who is a Lepi, a rabbit species in Star Wars. Another notable Lepi being Jackson from the Star Wars comics, and one really cool Easter Sunday shirt of the day from Star Wars Celebration Europe. But we see Lop as she's seen as an Empire laborer. She is shown with like a collar around her neck as she runs into Ocho, a young girl, and Boss Yasaburo, who is her father. Ocho immediately feels a connection with Lop and wants to adopt her into her family, and then immediately cuts to 7 years later, where we see Boss Yasaburo and Ocho fighting as he has started to kind of retaliate against the Empire, who has been mining like essential minerals out of their planet, kind of like Andor. Ocho has completely succumbed to the Empire and saying that it is for the benefit of the planet that they just follow what the Empire wants to do. Obviously, Boss Yasaburo does not like that idea at all. As the story progresses, we see Ocho succumb more and more to the Empire and a little bit to the dark side as well. Boss Yasaburo sees that there is no hope in getting his daughter back, so he entrusts Lop with this gift that he was going to give Ocho initially, but he sees no reason to give it to her, as Lop is more siding with her adopted father and his beliefs. He entrusts her with this lightsaber that was gifted to them by their ancestors when a Jedi visited the planet years and years ago, and now she has this green lightsaber. There's a fight that ensues with Boss Yasaburo going to the Imperial camp and essentially just blowing it up. He starts fighting with Ocho. This obviously pisses Lop off, and so they start fighting. These really nice, just traditional Japanese weapons that are infused also with kyber crystals, so they have powers of a lightsaber, and the fight is very emotional. The voice acting here is some of the best of the series as they contemplate with each other like what family actually is. It gets to a point where even Ocho kind of admits that she never really saw Lop as her family, and it's really emotional stuff. We then see towards the end of the fight that Lop is somehow now able to use the Force as she grabs her father's dagger and slashes Ocho in the chest, giving her a big X across her. It doesn't kill her. They do leave this on a super big cliffhanger as well, as we see Ocho on top of a ship being hoisted up and going into space, and the episode just ends from there. And it's honestly just some of the best Star Wars that I've seen in a while. This is one that I really wished that we were getting a series of. You got to spend a little bit more time with these characters, as I think this is the longest episode at 21 minutes. So you spend a lot of time with these characters, building those relationships. I just really hope that at some point they do, pick up this episode and kind of work a little bit around it. A lot of these episodes, or a lot of these shorts, do feel like they were meant to kind of jumpstart. Like they all feel like pilots, essentially. Kind of weird that we're only getting 2 of these later down the line, so I'm hoping that they bring Lop and Ocho again, but for now I'm leaving it at number 2. Number 1, by process of elimination, we have the duel from Kamikaze Duga, the best of all Visions in my opinion. Just honestly, I don't know why this was the first episode. They kind of just blew the doors off of what Star Wars could be. It's the animation, the color schemes, it's amazing. It's very Kurosawa, which obviously inspired George Lucas heavily while making Star Wars. The Elder also had really big Japanese influences, but this takes it to a whole nother level. Like, it's got the Kurosawa film grain, it's got the black and white, with the only exception being like blasters and red lightsabers. Obviously, the story being here that there is a mysterious Ronin who's just kind of just walking around doing his thing until he comes upon this village being taken over by raiders who are led by this mysterious woman who turns out to be a Sith with the coolest lightsaber I have ever seen. That at first it looks like a giant umbrella. It has like spokes that spin around and turn into like this giant death wheel, essentially, just making quick work of these villagers. And she's actually able to pull it out and it turns into a single lightsaber. She then sees this Ronin and a battle ensues where she says, "It's been a long time since I've killed a Jedi." He turns out not to be a Jedi as he pulls out his katana, and it literally looks like he's pulling like fluid out of this sheath. And she says the iconic line of, "This fight ensues. It's incredible." While we're getting that, he was also tasking this other villager with this really kind of funny task of, "You have until this tea boils to fix my droid." And he's working as quickly as possible. And as soon as the tea boils, the droid comes to life after he had just gotten shot earlier and goes and assists the village in fighting these raiders. The fight ends with the Ronin making quick work of the Sith Lord. The villagers also think that he's some sort of Jedi, but they also see that his lightsaber blade is red and that he is seen taking apart this Sith Lord's saber and collecting red kyber crystals as he opens his jacket, and it's just full of red kyber crystals. Before he puts it into his jacket, he actually gifts it to the village leader, who is this child. We see that this child's father, who's actually the village leader, is sick, so he is the acting leader. He gifts it to them. I love how very centered on the Sith and red kyber crystals this episode is, so maybe that's why I liked it a lot more. This one we are getting a sequel of in Vision Season 3, so I am super excited for it. Obviously, this puts the duel at number 1, so that's where we have our rankings there for all of Vision Season 1. And then you just let me know what you thought down in the comments. Which episodes did you prefer? Or did you prefer Season 2 a little bit more? You just let me know what y'all think. And until next time, till the spire, my friends.